Hello guys, welcome to Code with PK. So in this video we look at the problem of counting the number of digits in an integer. So first we are going to see how are we going to solve this problem. We look at the approach and the steps to solve this problem, and then we are going to take a look at the codes, right? So if you just want the codes, there are links in the description. You can visit the links and you can check out the code. To each link there is a text explanation attached as well. So if you are somebody who likes to read and understand, you can check out the explanation at the given link.
Please do not forget to subscribe to this channel and click on the bell icon to receive all the latest updates.
So we look at two methods to solve this. First one is very simple. We simply convert this integer into a string and then we print the length of the string. So this is very simple in C++, Java, C# and Python. But we'll look at another method using a while loop, okay, that counts the number of digits in an integer, okay. So suppose if I say I have this number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and I ask you how many digits does this integer have? You very quickly say 5, right? Very intuitive, right? So let's take this a step deeper, right? How do I count 5? I remove one digit, I say 1. I remove another, I say 2. I remove another, I say 3. I remove another, I say 4. And finally I remove the last one, I say 5. So this is much more of a definitive process to find the number of digits in this integer, right? So I'll break this process a little further, okay? So I'll say the number of digits in this integer is the number of times I am able to remove a units digit from this number, okay? So from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, I start with my counter 0, okay? From 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, I remove 5, okay? Counter becomes 1, okay? I get 1, 2, 3, 4. I remove the units digit. Again removing units digit, my counter becomes 2, I am left with 1, 2, 3. Remove units digit, my counter becomes 3, I am left with 1, 2. Remove units digit, my counter becomes 4, I am left with 1. I remove units digit, my counter becomes 5. This one is what we are going to use in our code. We will remove the units digit in the integer one by one and keep updating our counter, right? So when do I stop? So I'll say when this last digit is removed, I get a 0. We'll see how. So our first small challenge is how do we remove this units digit from this integer? We simply divide this integer by 10, alright? So if I do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 integer division by 10, I get 1, 2, 3, 4 and this 5 is lost, okay? This is because A by B, okay, only returns the quotient and leaves out the remainder, okay? So if you divide any value, say 23 by 10, your quotient is 2 and you lose out 3. If you divide 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 by 10, your quotient is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and you lose out 6, okay? So integer division by 10 will remove the units digit. First task is done. Then how do we know we have removed all the digits, okay? Our second small challenge. So when I have the last single digit left, okay? So last single digit could be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. If we divide any of these by 10, I get a 0 as the remainder. So I know when my value becomes 0, using this process, I will reach the end of counting my number of integers. So we know how to remove a units digit and we know what is the stopping condition, alright? So let's get to the coding part. We'll start with a pseudocode. So n basically is our integer, okay? We have to count the number of digits in this, okay? We know our stopping condition is while n is not equal to 0, okay? And we take a counter as well. I'll say num digits, okay? So we have num digits which will store the number of digits in n starting at 0. This will be incremented by 1 in each iteration because in each iteration I remove a units digit from this value n, okay? So what was the method of removing a units digit? We do n by 10, okay? And then store it back into n. And we say num digits plus equal to 1, okay? This finds the number of digits for us in this integer. So let's look at an example 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, okay? So our n is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We have num digits as 0, okay? We are here, n is not equal to 0, n is not equal to 0 true, n is equal to n by 10. We lose this, we get this, okay? Num digits plus 1, we get this. Check for while loop condition again, n is not equal to 0 true. We do n is equal to n by 10, we lose this. We get 1, 2, 3 and num digits become 2. Check while loop condition again, n is not equal to 0 is true. We lose this. We get 12. Increment num digits by 1, we get 3. Check while loop condition again, n is not equal to 0, 12 is not equal to 0 is true, we come inside, n is equal to n by 10, we lose this, 1 is left, we increment number of digits by 1. We check while loop condition again, n is not equal to 0 is true, 1 is not equal to 0 is true, we do n is equal to n by 10, we lose this, so 1 by 10 will give you a quotient of 0 and increment num digits by 1, okay. 0 is not equal to 0 is false, so when you come out here, you have num digits as 5. Two things to note here is, first is basically you lose the value of n becomes 0 after this loop. So if you want to store the value of n and reuse it again, store it in a temp value and then set n back to temp, okay, because this loop stops when n goes to 0 and after this loop n goes to 0, right. First is you should always store this value of n. Second is that this loop will not work for n equal to 0. So suppose if our n is 0, right, okay, so 0 not equal to 0 will be false and we come out of the loop, okay. Num digit stays as 0 for digit 0 which is wrong. So what we do, we use an if else. So you say if n is equals to 0, okay, you say num digits is 1, okay, else, okay, we do this entire while loop, okay. So this is how we find the number of digits in an integer, and now we look at the codes.
So this is the implementation for our first solution, and I've written this function that takes the value of n, returns an int which is the number of digits in n. So to find the number of digits in n in this case, we convert n to a string and then we find the length of the string which is the number of digits for this integer n. Okay, so let me run and check this. Okay, and Java. Okay, so this is the output and all the cases are correct. Now this is the solution we discussed using a while loop. So again I've written a function that takes the value of n and returns an int which is the number of digits in n. And as I explained in the solution, I am taking the case for n equal to 0 separately when I am setting the number of digits directly to 1. Otherwise, if n is not 0, in the else case we follow the while loop method. So let me run this. This is 2.java. Okay, in this case also all the cases are correct. So in the solution I indicated that if you want to reuse the value of n, you have to store it in a temp variable, okay, before the while loop, because after the while loop the value of n goes to 0. But in this case I have created a separate function, okay, so I am not using the value of n after this while loop, so I don't need to store it into a temp variable, because from whichever function this get num digits function is called and the value of n is passed, a copy of this value of n is passed and the original value of n from where it is called remains unchanged, so we don't need to store the value of n in temp in this case. I hope this video was helpful, so please do like my video, subscribe to my channel, and please post comments if something is not clear in this, if there is a concept you want me to explain or if there is a question you want me to solve. Thank you.